Let's talk about Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. This was one of the most interesting books I've ever been recommended and had the pleasure of reading. This book is largely based on the author's real life as a gymnast at UC Berkeley, a D1 gymnast who later became a world champion in trampoline. It is semi autobiographical in that most of what led to the creation of this book is based on his real life and like follows the actual journey that he took through college as a gymnast. But it's only semi autobiographical because many of the people who he meets and a lot of the events that take place as far as the quote unquote lessons that you learn in this book are more esoteric and very much like storytelling and like fantastical in nature. So it's not like you're not just like following him in real life. Like there are like crazy things that happen in this book that are like realizations and like like basically his spiritual journeys, hallucinations, like things that are they like take him out of like the real world realm and like things from like a fantasy novel basically happen, but like these are ways that the book personifies like these lessons and like throws it right in your face, just like delving you into like these different scenarios of like life and death and struggle, uh focus and winning, even like championships and flow state. Like it kind of touches on a little bit of everything, and the book itself talks about how you should listen to this character that Dan meets, who is this gas station attendant, who he ends up calling Socrates, because for this random old man who they don't really tell you how old he is, um, they, Dan learns a lot from this character. And he is supposed to be this amalgamation of a bunch of people who he's met throughout his life. And Socrates is sort of like this magical, like almost like a Yoda type character, uh, or like there's a lot of different character types. Like Merlin would be another classical example. Um, and Dan is just like infatuated with this dude, so he like keeps coming back and is like wondering like what his deal is because he's like a super interesting guy because he's like very spry and like very happy and talkative and giving to the world, and yet he's just like this old man who works at a gas station like at an overnight shift. um so it was really cool. It like and Socrates' philosophy, right, is this is what he says in the book. It's that you should listen to this philosophy because it's not based on other like old masters or other philosophers. It's based on lived experience through Dan's own journey, and it's not because he read any books. It's just based on the actual things that got him to this point. Uh, because he was, by all means, a highly successful person. He was super athletic, in really good shape, had, you know, as many women as he wanted, uh, good grades at a great college, um, good family, lots of money, like basically everything that you could ask for, and he still wasn't happy. So he really had to find out like what fulfilled him, and it was tough. There was a lot that he had to consider throughout his life, just like introspective nature of like why is being the best not fulfilling, and is this what I really want? Like whose journey am I going on anyways? Like there's just so much to unpack in this book, and it felt like it really went by so fast. And I do wish it was a little bit longer, but I do know there are other books in the series which I can follow up on and read as well. And not to mention, it became a Lionsgate movie. which I do still plan on watching. Haven't watched it yet, but I heard it was incredible. I'm sure the visualizations of some of these scenes from the book that are like so fantastical and so over the top are going to be really beautifully done in the movie. So definitely highly recommend. Even if you can't read the book, I would say watch the movie. Uh, just based on, you know, the person who recommended it to me actually wanted me to watch the movie, but I was like, I kind of want to see what this book is about. And I think I made a good choice with that one. There is so many unique and individualized lessons that do come from this book. Um, a lot of the journey is part of his struggle with being injured during, uh, he injures his leg during college, so he has to miss like a bunch of his season as a gymnast, and then coming back was like super super difficult. And that is also like, one of the big things where it's like, you get to try really hard and you can prove who you are in these times of struggles. And, it's not going to be normal, and you got to be slow and you got to push it. You got to like really push it, and probably more than what like doctors are recommending you to push it. And, to some degree, you got to teach yourself to be hyper disciplined. And once you have that discipline, you got to allow yourself to enjoy yourself, but also recover when you need to recover, and don't fall into these traps of like pleasure seeking tools and things that you think are going to fulfill you but are just for pleasure, not for happiness. um, and balance it, right? You're allowed to have fun and do these things, but if you're going to do things that are like bad for yourself, you need to balance it and do some things that are good for yourself, but enjoy it. Like, enjoy life, you know seek happiness. You can be a champion and fall into flow state. um, it's just a matter of mindset and understanding of oneself mostly. uh, and I do wish I could like talk on like the specific spiritual fantastical scenes, but I think they're so great, and they're probably worth just searching for on your own and letting either the audiobook, which is read by the author, so it's worth listening to, or just reading it, or watching the movie, like any of the above. It really is a book that changes people's lives, and it's got a unique take versus like a lot of other teachings are really built on each other. You can find a lot of similarities within all of them, and there are definitely similarities here, but it's a unique take for sure. And somebody who builds a philosophy on their own, not from a book, and one that has been so impactful for so many people already, is definitely worth taking a listen to. This has been a new lens. I'm Wild Will. I'll see you next week.